relationship between academia and the biotech industry is a genuinely symbiotic one. They're inherently intertwined. Without academic research, biotech innovation would stall, and without industry, most research would remain theoretical, never making the impact on the world that it should. Both sides of the ecosystem benefit from each other, but does the academic system actually set biotech companies up for failure? Well, the rewards and norms of the academe may well be directly at odds with the skills, mindset, and perspective needed for business success in 4 key ways. The first is individualism over collaboration. In academia, there's one currency of success, getting your name in the right places, whether it's as first author on a paper, as the name on the lab, or on the tenure list. Your individual accomplishments as an academic researcher are inherently linked to how your peers and employers perceive you. By contrast, biotech companies require seamless, proactive collaboration between many different functions to achieve their goals. And it's difficult for people to make the mental shift from individual contributor to great team member or effective leader. And add to that the fact that academic teams are temporary by design and by nature. They're a constantly rotating cast of PhD students, postdocs, and research assistants who play their part and move on. In such a transitory environment, building long-term relationships just isn't tied to success. And so the underlying culture in many labs is competitive, with the emphasis on standing out and avoiding asking for help, rather than becoming a highly effective unit. But in a company, delivering transformative research to patients depends on teamwork, long-term focus, sharing knowledge, and alignment, all of which mean that the relationships between people and their ability to work well together are crucial elements of success. And again, this is a really hard transition for many people. There's research to back this up. In 2023, an MIT Sloan study discovered that biotech startups led by first-time academic founders had a 40% higher failure rate than those led by experienced biotech executives. And that doesn't mean that academics can't be successful, but they do need to acknowledge and embrace the second core difference between academia and industry, which is the idea of intellect is king over the value of experience. Scientists are, as a group, significantly more intelligent than an average cross-section of the population, and that's broadly a positive thing, but it's not enough. Because sheer intellectual horsepower drives achievement in an academic setting, though, many founders assume that if they're smart enough, they'll figure out the path to success in biotech. But the reality is that the history of drug and diagnostic development is littered with brilliant, failed science doomed to obscurity by poor leadership, insufficient commercial acumen, and an inability to execute. The belief that intellect drives success, coupled with the emphasis on individualism, leads to many biotech spinouts hesitating to hire experienced executives in key positions. And as a result, they make key strategic decisions from a perspective full of blind spots around the requirements of clinical development or commercialization. And this leads to delays, poor strategies, funding struggles, and most painfully of all, creation of incredible technology that doesn't really solve problems. In fact, to echo MIT Sloan's findings above, data from the Biotech Startup Success Index shows that companies who hire a CEO with prior biotech experience have a 60% higher success rate than those that don't. Think about CRISPR Therapeutics' hiring of Samarth Kulkarni as a great example of the value of experience. Academic institutes also breed a bias towards new rather than better. And let's face it, we all have a soft spot for shiny new things. And the new is much more exciting than the slightly better. And this is reinforced by an academic system that rewards breakthrough novel discoveries far in excess of incremental practical improvements on existing technology. When it comes to drug development, however, many of the most valuable innovations are not radical new discoveries, but optimized, repurposed, or improved versions of flawed science. mRNA technology, for example, has been around for decades, but it was only when companies like BioNTech and Moderna perfected the delivery mechanisms and, in fairness, provided a solution to a global pandemic that they became a mainstream successful way to deliver vaccines. Perfecting something that already exists is usually more challenging and more tedious than discovering something new, and the academic mindset compounds that. Academic founders are often drawn away from the crucial challenges of manufacturing, regulatory hurdles, or the repeatable generation of data, preferring instead to chase new scientific problems. And this usually results in runways being burnt through rapidly with no consistent progress towards tangible success. In fact, according to the Harvard Business Review, 55% of failed biotech startups focus too much of their attention on discovery rather than concentrating their efforts on delivering medicines to patients. Successful biotech companies, on the other hand, find a way to balance innovation with clinical and commercial execution. Then finally, there's this idea of alternative careers. For their own reasons, many academic institutions downplay the validity of careers outside academia, portraying industry as a path for failed scientists who prefer to sell out. And that creates a clear cultural bias against commercialization, with the term alternative careers used frequently. Although, if more than 70% of scientists end up in these alternative careers, I'd argue that they're not so alternative after all. And the second order effect of this is that those who do end up in industry, whether through arrogance or self-preservation, arrive with chips firmly placed on shoulders. This naturally impedes their integration into their new environment and makes them less effective team members, often leading to reduced enthusiasm and ultimately wasted talent. Now, in fairness, some academic institutions have already recognized this issue and they're taking steps to rectify it. MIT, Stanford, Oxford University, Cambridge University, Imperial College London, the Karolinska Institute, and others are forging much closer ties with industry and providing entrepreneurship and commercialization training to their scientists, along with mentorship from successful industry figures. And this is a great start, but it'll take a long time to wear down biases that have existed for generations. If you're an academic founder, start out by being aware that you may be carrying unhelpful prejudices, consciously or not. Build a team environment, identify people who can bring the benefit of experience, upskill yourself in the non-scientific elements of running a biotech company, and embrace collaboration. All of that will increase your chances of success in a field where most fail.